Hey ladies, it's your girl Vashti, and you're listening to Extraordinary Women. Are you feeling lost, confused, perhaps even unsure about yourself and your purpose? Well, don't worry, sis. I got you covered with some of the life stories and advice from some amazing women. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be empowered. You're listening to Extraordinary Women. Joining me today on this episode of Extraordinary Women, everybody, is Miss Cristina Cuomo. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much. I love your podcast, and this is a real treat for me. So thank you.
Thank you. So before I get started on everything, I know there was a case of COVID in your family. I want to know, how are you guys doing now post COVID, and how's the whole family, your son, you, how's Chris, how's everyone doing?
So we're all doing very well, thank you. We all shared an underlying sinus issue, which persists for all of us, I think. And having had the vaccine was a big decision because my husband and I had COVID a year ago. There's still not enough science out there to support whether once the antibodies dissipate, whether there is an immune level that continues, right, against the virus. And I found myself exposed to it since then many different times, and I didn't get reinfected. There are very few reinfection cases. But after a year, I thought, since the consideration is that the vaccine will probably, last a year in one system, I figured the actual virus is probably about the same time frame. So we are happily vaccinated, and this is the only one in the family who didn't get it.
Hi.
This is my 11-year-old Carolina. Yes. So yeah, we are doing better, and thank you so much for asking.
That's good. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing well. I know COVID, it can be a butt kicker. I didn't have it. Thank God I didn't get it, but I do have some family members that did have it, and they pulled through. It was rough for them, but I actually just got my COVID vaccine earlier this week, and
Oh, good. Oh, good.
yeah, I started feeling
Side effects?
no, I got the Johnson and Johnson.
Oh, good.
So but I started to feel the side effects yesterday. And I mean, it knocked me out for a good 24 hours. I got the mild fever, the
Yeah.
headache, the chills, and I actually had to cut my workday short because I couldn't bear staring at the computer anymore, because I was shaking, and then I had the headache, and I just had to give my body a rest. But I'm better now. I mean, it really only lasted 24 hours at least. So, and I slept most of the day. And they did say, once you get it, you should, if you start to feel those side effects, you should allow your body some rest, which is what they say too when you actually contract it. The more rest you get and more hydrated you stay, the better you're off pulling off the virus or fighting it off.
That's
Um,
so true. Well, I'm glad to hear you're better because it's certainly a debilitating virus. It's interest. It's an interesting phenomenon that you have to give yourself the virus
yes.
for what is that, like a day of bad side effects in order to prevent getting the virus for maybe a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I know you have a background in lifestyle journalism. You went to Cornell University. Talk to me a little bit about your background, where you got your start in the media.
sure. So I grew up in New York City. I graduated from a girls' school. Then I attended Cornell in Ithaca. And during my time there, I really immersed myself in literature and languages. As someone who became sort of more fascinated with writing, it was more in the creative field. And then eventually it evolved into journalism during my summers when I started writing for a local paper in Long Island, where I would spend my summers with my family. And that really essentially evolved into a more entertainment driven form of journalism. I really loved covering people who inspired me. And I started out with artists and other writers in the area, because this area of Long Island in particular, where I grew up, had a resounding plethora of cultural icons. You know, everyone from Kurt Vonnegut to Roy Lichtenstein. Lived within miles of my parents' house. So I was fascinated, by those cultural icons. So I began interviewing artists and writers, and I forever have done series on artists and writers, because for me, real celebrity is a writer, a poet. For example, that's where I find most of my inspiration. So I started with my foot in the door at a local paper, and then I eventually graduated from Cornell, and I went to Interview Magazine, and I worked there for a brief stint. And then I started my own magazine called Manhattan File in New York City when I was 24 years old. So I think I was the youngest editor in the country at that time, very driven to produce something that spoke to my generation. And to chronicle that sort of entertainment world as it was evolving, with first time covers for actresses like Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Lopez. It was amazing, and now look where they all are.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about Paris, because I would think like that's what led up to Paris now, and I love the front cover of that. Who is? I can't really see. It's kind of
So this is Robert Downey Jr. and his wife Susan, and their
wow.
sustainable house that they built in California. It's called a Binny Shell. It's basically looks like an ecopod, like a caterpillar. It's quite remarkable, and Robert and Susan started something called the Footprint Coalition, which is their foundation that supports businesses in the sustainable world. Everything from like iCloud paper, which is a bamboo made toilet paper and paper towel company, and on. So it's really, really interesting how they've created and supported all of these businesses in the sustainable world. And in doing that, they decided to build something that reflected their interests. It's a home with a low carbon footprint. It's pretty far out and futuristic. And this is a new issue.
I was just about to ask you too. So, how do you go about choosing your front cover for Paris magazine? Like, how do you go about doing that? Do you seek out who you want to have on the front cover, and also how has it progressed over the last few years? It was founded in 2017, correct?
Yes, yeah. So in my journalism career, I pivoted towards. I've always edited magazines. That's pretty much how I was able to sustain that business. There's not a lot of money to be made as a journalist, but as an editor in chief, you can have a nice job. And I always edited smaller publications in regional markets so that I could get married, start a family, and have a life. And eventually, my interests in the wellness space became so paramount to my existence as a woman, and how to maintain optimal health, that I wanted to figure out a way to meld my hobby and my interest in wellness with this lifelong career that I had. At that point, I'd been in the industry for 25, 30 years, with publishing. And in 2017, you were observing magazines shuttering at a rapid pace. So I thought, wow, how can I create something? It's got to be online, obviously, but what's my justification for wanting to do print and have that be sort of an adjunct to the website and the social media aspects of what we're doing? So part of wellness is mindfulness, right? We know, or we've learned over time, the benefits of mindfulness and, let's say, meditation. It's an anti-stressor. It actually reduces cortisol levels in the brain. It makes you healthier. It's like a, it ages you back. So I wanted reading to be part of that. So by creating a print product printed on 100% recycled paper, no less, it is this way of reminding people to pause and put down your phone and pick up something to read. And I make sure that every issue is chock full of really good information from experts in the wellness space, doctors, holistic practitioners, you name it. Amazing journalists who I've, befriended over the years. I mean, it's nothing short of what's going on in here, the full expression of that, trying to create, like when you bake an apple pie, you need certain necessary ingredients. And at that foundation are the apples, right? So for me, the apples is the content, and content is king. As being on the editorial side, I've always wanted to create something that people really want to read, and we see that more than ever, how dynamic you have to be in order to get people's attention, especially to get them to read. So I feel like over the years, especially during COVID, I became a bit of a connector, connecting these experts, these doctors with an audience, because they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they have the information that will help us become our own best doctors, our own best wellness purveyors. Know yourself, know thyself is key to all of this. And as we saw in the last year, health became, priority number one for everyone.
Yeah.
So how do you access health? I mean, the wellness industry is $1 billion industry, and it's overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and there's so many products. So what we do is we pare it all down for you and make sense of it, and package it and give it back to you in a more, palatable way.
Educating yourself on wellness and health, that goes far. And honestly, I'll say for me, I have learned a lot by reading everything that you have shared on there, and even from you having your lives with your special guests. I have learned so much, and it has even encouraged me to even want to do more research on wellness. How can I, how can I, find different ways to meditate? How can I find different ways to, change my lifestyle, my eating habits? And I will say, like you said, especially within the last year of COVID, health has been such a priority for a lot of people now. We want to keep ourselves healthy. So I will say that's what I absolutely love about you, and I love about Paris, is that it's informative, and it's also fun. It gives you a break. It really educates you, and it helps you a
So
lot.
yeah, I mean, learning is the most fun part about all this, because I've learned so much. It's like going back to school, literally, learning from these doctors and these experts, and these formulators and what they're creating and why. And they're doing it for the good of others and people's health.
Yeah.
And now it's become a good business, obviously, and that's why I support so many of them, because these are businesses that aren't superfluous. They're necessary, to our health. And one of the great things is learning so much about the pillars of wellness and what those are, from the holistic aspects of the physical, nutrition, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual. We were just talking about your name from the Book of Esther, which I love to hear about. But knowing these things about ourselves are really key. Intellectual, as I said, of course, financial wellness is a part of it, as well. And environmental wellness, doing good for our community and our surroundings and the world we live in, not just for ourselves, but that also benefits us in the long term and our
What are
families.
some other things that you've been doing to keep yourself and keep your family motivated in the middle of the pandemic? Because we're all still losing our minds slowly here,
Yeah.
staying in the house all day, and finding things, constantly finding things to do just to keep ourselves sane. So what are some things that you and your family have been doing to stay motivated?
So it's really nice to be together throughout the whole day, especially when the kids are on virtual school. Uh, we do a lot of cooking together. We do a lot of uh, TV watching together, movie watching, movie night. And we're just together as a family more so than ever because there's no after school sports. There's no, they're not at school all day long and you don't see them at 5 o'clock until, they go to bed at night. It's all day, so you're constantly thinking of creative things to do with them that are different, and there hasn't been a lot of traveling either. So how do you create fun vacation time at home? That's always a tough one. So you really have to step it up as a parent during COVID. But I found myself doing a lot of reading, and not so that they will emulate it because kids today just don't like to read, but
Yeah.
because I love it. And, like I said, I'm so excited at the prospect of learning more. Right now I'm reading Don Lemon's new book, This is the Fire.
I need to get on
It's,
that.
it's really, really, really good. Um, so I would highly recommend that. An important moment in history to understand, not just to learn about. And so those are some of the my go-tos with reading
Yeah,
during
I
COVID.
need to get on the I need to get on Don Lemon's This Is the Fire. I was excited when he announced it on his show. I'm like, oh my goodness, he has a book that's coming out. Wow. So I need to get on it and start reading that myself. But I'm with you on the reading. Like actually I've been doing that a lot more too since the pandemic. And I haven't even so much bought anything new, but there's a book that I have that I've had ever since college. So when I was in college, I took this African American literature class, and it was the first class I've ever taken that was related to African American culture and Black culture. I didn't have that growing up in high school or anything like that or middle school. And the teacher that I had, actually, she's still a great family friend of mine. I still talk to her to this very day because she's had so much of an impact on my life, in my education, in my professional career. But
Yeah, of
it's
course.
a really, really, it's like an encyclopedia almost, and it has a series of Black literature stories from every Black writer you could possibly think of, from Maya Angelou to Langston Hughes to Olado Equiano. But I highly encourage getting the book and just reading some of those suggestions there because it's a great escape. It's all about education too. Learning and applying what is in these stories to today, because some of the stuff that's in there, even though it's old and it's in the past, it still applies to today's current events and what's happening and what's going on. And as long as we're able to have these uncomfortable conversations that we need to have, that's the only way we can progress as a community and as a country. So, talk to me a little bit about some of your most challenging aspects of your life, but yet, also some enduring moments. So, whether that's as a professional, as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, what is some of the most challenging aspects you've ever gone through, but it was also very enduring for you?
Well, I think life throws so many obstacles your way, challenges, uphill challenges. But it's so important to stay on that path of self awareness, a path of compassion and understanding, and most importantly, kindness. And of course, to find the humor in everything, right? So emotional health is really key because that's when we allow our instincts to take over.
Mhm.
Um, and foregoing what is expected,
Yeah.
and children are the best example of that. I often feel we can learn a lot from our kids. I have three. Not their lack of a verbal filter, but their instinctive way of wanting something that feels good, right, and right. So the outdoors have become life changing for me. Since COVID, we moved out to Long Island. So, I go back every other week with one of my daughters who has school every other week. But being out here has been so fulfilling because I surf. My kids and I surf, and I literally surfed all winter long. in the 35-degree ocean, with the wetsuit head to toe. So I find that when I do something selfish like that,
Mhm.
um, I have this sense of freedom, where um, I can make better decisions, because I'm pausing, and those things just come through your head and you think about them. It's like a form of meditation almost, but what I'm thinking about is like which wave to catch, and you know things like that. And there's this uh, phrase, be here now, right? Well, surfing is the epitome of that, because you are in that moment, focused on that moment. And when you're focused on that moment, everything somehow falls into place around you. It's a really interesting way of looking at things, but it's the best way I can describe it, through the surfing analogy. But so because of that, I learned to follow my instincts more clearly, right?
Yeah.
Not just on the board, but off the board. Um, and it's become a bit of an obsession. There's this famous surfer who's kind of an innovator, Tom Morey, who says, I do believe that surfing is creation's finest parable or teacher for how to deal with life. It teaches us how to deal with opportunity, when and where, and how to get out. And that the consequences of not doing some or all of this right really ain't so bad. There's always another wave. So finding balance is really emotionally healthy. And we all have to stay on that path, just stay on that path, never get off that path, even if there are those obstacles coming at you, because that's how you do better as a human being, and never stop learning. Like that's really important. Never stop learning. Because that's how you do better as a human being.
What is the best piece of advice that someone has ever given you, man or woman? And how do you apply that advice to your daily life?
So, God, let's see. I'm a big procrastinator. So the carpe diem thing is definitely a mantra that I try to constantly, reiterate to myself. But the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is always really important. Especially like with this notion of kill them with kindness. Sometimes people jump at you, especially in this cancel culture. And I just think, oh my God, you just want to jump right back. You want to be defensive. You want to, just lash back, but you can't. You have to always take that high road that Michelle Obama talks about. When they go low, we go high.
Right.
That's really, really, really important. Um, Thinking before you speak, which spares so many unnecessary confrontations, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very key. And as an emotional person, right, I feel like sometimes I can't do that. Like I have to speak out, but it's better for you, to really think about what you're going to say before you say it,
Mhm.
and how you're going to respond to that person that just attacked you, who might not necessarily, have any understanding of what they're saying, or, it could be rooted in nothing, but nonetheless, it's a good life lesson, especially being in a family that is the focus of the media's attention. That has really taught me to take a deep breath, pause, don't respond, because 99% of what they say, what they write isn't true.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's so interesting to be on that inside, to be in the media, but also on the side, to be on the side, the other side, of the target.
Yeah.
You know? um, but I don't like to trade in that kind of salacious, gossipy type of journalism.
Mhm.
So, that has reinforced what I do and my notion that it's good, that I'm helping other people do better, because I'm constantly on that same path to do better.
Yeah.
I think we all are. And, we're all fallible. We all have faults. We all make mistakes. Um, and the key is to learn from them, you know,
Yeah.
and to just try harder and be a better person, um, because there are ramifications and consequences emotionally. There's karma.
Yeah.
Big believe in
Yep.
karma, right?
I've learned that even in thinking about how I'm going to respond, taking my time responding, I learned that even most of the time, it doesn't even require a response. Sometimes
Exactly.
silence is golden. I think that that's a very old saying. Silence is golden. And my mom used to say that to me all the time when I was a teenager. I'm like, Mom, I don't understand what that means. I don't know what you're talking about. Silence is golden, until I got a little bit older and I started going through my whole motions with friends and relationships, and I've learned that it's not, it doesn't require a response most of the time. And I find that most of the time when I don't respond, I am I have less anxiety because I've just let it roll off my shoulder. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not even gonna worry about it. So why give something so much of your energy when you could be using that energy to apply it somewhere else, somewhere greater?
Exactly, exactly.
Question, or more like a fill in the blank that I came up with today, is the best thing a woman can have is what, in your opinion?
You know, that's such a good question. And women have so many amazing attributes. But I think intelligence is really key. Uh, you know, Nurturing your brain, having a well oiled brain is really important.
Hmm.
I thought a lot about that question. And I think intelligence is really, knowledge is power. So that's where you start from strength and maintain strength
I
with
love it.
intelligence.
I love it. Intelligence. That's the first. That's the first one. When here's other people have said self worth, self love, self awareness, but intelligence, that is very key. Knowledge is key, like you said. But yeah, I agree. Intelligence is good. The best thing a woman can have. I mean, when you're aware of yourself and you learn about yourself, you learn about your surroundings, who you surround yourself with, then you're able to progress a little bit further.
And it's hard work. It's
Yeah.
hard work to learn and absorb. But in doing that, you become more self aware and then you develop that self worth,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And that is, everything stems from that. And it's really good to step outside of yourself, especially in those formative years, and learn everything you can about the world around you, which in turn will tell you who you are, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Christina, thank you so much for joining me. Before I let you go, where can everyone follow you so they can get some of the best tips on wellness and health and knowledge that they can get from you? Where can everyone follow you?
So my website is www.thepuristonline.com. So check that out. Sign up for our newsletter. You get the newsletter every week, chock full of inspiring ideas in the wellness space. You can also follow me on at Cristina Cuomo on Instagram. No H in Christina. Um, and Also at the Purist, Purist, that Instagram as well, where we offer diurnal, uh, you know, um, ways to do better, right? Advice, good advice, daily aphorisms, which I love.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Please follow her. She's amazing. If you haven't started following her yet, thank you again, Christina, for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was fun, and I hope I can bring you back for another episode one day. I mean, I think that this could, potentially be something where we can talk more about wellness and health that a lot of people could use some tips on and how to take care of themselves and their families. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for asking me. I love speaking to you about these things. I think about them often, so it's nice to be able to say them out loud. But check out The Purist. There's Oprah on my winter cover last year when she did her wellness tour. I'm always seeking out different people in the wellness space who are doing dynamic and interesting things. And the fact that she was talking about nutrition and bringing wellness into people's lives through mindfulness and other forms of wellness was really, really special. And it's become um, a mass trend, which I'm so happy to see.
Yeah.
And we've got it all for you on thepuristonline.com. So check it out.
Thank you again.